Well, thank you for joining us again. This is part of our ongoing, continuing series where we're attempting to talk to liberals and conservatives and people on the left and people on the right and find out how they think about political division and the concept of a potential national divorce, as espoused by Marjorie Taylor Greene, the famous sitting Congress member who called for one on President's Day recently. Too much fanfare and controversy. Well, today we're going to be doing an interview with Kirkpatrick Sale. Kirkpatrick Sale is one of the oldest liberals pushing for secession. That's right. He comes from the Northeast coast. He's a hardcore liberal. And he has been in the secession movement for a while, a great, great long amount of time. Let's get right to it. So this is Kirkpatrick Sale. He's been on the New York Times in an article entitled "A Vision of a Nation No Longer in the U.S." He's also been featured on C-SPAN. So he's made it to the big time. New York Times, C-SPAN, where he's talked about his ideas and some of his books. He's also been around for a very long time. Here's the original New York Times article, Kirkpatrick Sale. There he is on C-SPAN. Sale has been described as one of the intellectual godfathers of the secessionist movement. He argues that the major theme of contemporary history, from the dissolution of the Soviet Union to the expansion of the United Nations, membership from 51 countries in 1945 to 193 nations today, actually it's around 210 now, is the breakup of great empires. Some of both left and right call for smaller, less powerful government. That's exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene said recently. She's on the right and was calling for a smaller, less powerful government. Kirkpatrick Sale is on the left and has been calling for a smaller federal government. In 2004, about 20 years ago, Sale and members of the Second Vermont Republic formed the Middlebury Institute, which is dedicated to the study of separatism, secession, and self-determination, the UN concept that guarantees self-determination for all nations. Sale is director of the Institute. In 2006, Middlebury sponsored the first North American Secessionist Convention, which attracted 40 participants from 16 secessionist organizations and was described as the first gathering of secessionists since the American Civil War. Delegates issued a statement of principles of secession, which they presented as the Burlington Declaration. In October 2007, the New York Times interviewed Sale about the second North American Secessionist Convention, co-hosted by the Middlebury Institute. Sale told the interview, "The virtue of small government is that the mistakes are small as well." He went on to say, "If you want to leave a nation you think is corrupt, inefficient, militaristic, oppressive, repressive, but you don't want to move to Canada or France, what do? Well, the way is through secession, where you could stay home and be where you want to be." The convention received worldwide media attention. So he's formed two secession conventions about 20 years ago. He was talking about secession and separatism and attempting to work across America to bring together different minds. Kirkpatrick Sale is widely recognized as the formulator and early proponent of the notion of bioregionalism. You're going to see that now with the Cascadia movement. His development of the concept in his books, lectures, and regular radio broadcasts fueled the ever-growing interest in a local approach to solving of growing political, economic, and environmental problems. A scholar and author, his many books have explored radical decentralism, environmentalism, Ludditism, and technology. Ludditism is the theory from the 1600s or 1800s in England, where the Luddites, following King Lud, destroyed mechanical machinery so that they could keep cottage factories for textiles in effect. And so Ludditism means basically anti-bringing of technology, including Human Scale, 1980, Dwellers in the Land, Columbian Legacy, Green Revolution, Rebels Against the Future, the Luddites and their war in the Industrial Revolution. That's what I was talking about. After Eden, The Evolution of Human Domination, The Human Scale Revisited, early books written as freelance journalists are The Land and the People of Ghana, and SDS, which describes the 1960s youth activist organization Students for a Democratic Society. He's also a member of the Second Vermont Republic, which formed the Middlebury Institute. So this was the actual interview I did with Kirkpatrick Sale. He didn't want to come on camera, but I was able to ask him a series of questions, and he gave some very great answers. So here's what the questions I asked. "I deeply appreciate the response Thank you for taking the time. Here are the standard questions I ask all interviewees. In 2007, in an interview with the New York Times, they said, Mr. Sale argues that the big theme of contemporary history, from the collapse of the Soviet Union to the evolution of the United Nations, from 51 nations in 1945 to 192 now, is the breakup of great empires. And some on both the left, which he is, and right agree that the only cure for a federal government that's too big and too powerful is to make it less big and powerful. In 2023, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a sitting member of Congress, said the division between red and blue had grown too large for the country to stay together as it had in the past. Peoples of different political persuasions should move to separate states, and the federal government should become much less powerful overall. I was pointing out to him how he was talking about a less powerful federal government, and now Marjorie Taylor Greene is. And does he see a similarity between his message and hers? This was the interview we got from Kirkpatrick Sale. Has America become more or less functional since 2007 when you made the call for secession and devolution? More or less has another meaning, rephrase. And I started secession work with the Middlebury Institute in 2004 when I made that UN point. America has been in steady decline in coherence and function and good sense since at least 2004. Witnessed the election of a dysfunctional president run by, of all things, aging neocons. So this liberal is saying, America has been in steady decline in coherence and function and good sense since at least 2004. And now remember, in a lot of shows that I did, I was pointing out how there's political division going back to the early 2000 election, which was the first time they started talking about separate red and blue states. That was the election with Al Gore and George W. Bush. And now we hear Kirkpatrick Sale saying, 2004 is when I think it started. I felt personally, Marcus, that it started at 2000. He's picking 2004. Makes sense. Has political division worsened from 2007 to now? Critics of Marjorie Taylor Greene say we don't need a national divorce, but rather marriage counseling. What does marriage counseling for a population of 200 to 300 million people look like? Sorry, let me clean this up a little bit. When I expanded the size, it did this, so I apologize. Here we go. Questions 2 to 3. Division was there all along, which is why I pushed secession in 2004. But it has certainly gotten worse. Until now, there are feuding social media and TV broadcasters that shout at each other but don't listen to each other. One side won in 2016, the other in 2020, but that didn't stop either side, which is why going on with one overarching government will not work. Why counseling, by the way, I don't take Greene seriously, okay? Of any kind or devolution or any other fake schemes to beef up states will not work. Letting states go free of federal government is the only answer, and if they make alliances after that, that's their choice. So he's saying, because one side won in 2016, liberals and Democrats, and the other side won in 2020. Trump won in 2016, conservatives. Liberals won in 2020. However, that didn't seem to cause any calming down in the country. So Trump won, people were as upset. Biden won, and Texas was talking about seceding. Which is why going on with one overarching government will not work. So because we've seen how jockeying and unaccepting the last two elections are by both sides, even though they lost one, but then they won the very next one, doesn't seem to make any difference. Because of that, working with an overarching government will not work. And counseling or devolution, federalism, we were talking about, can you use federalism as a way to reduce the tension? And he's saying federalism or other fake schemes to beef up states will not work. So federalism, returning power to the states, aka devolution and other fake schemes to beef up the states, federalism, returning power to the states will not work. Letting states go free of the federal government is the only answer. So things have gotten worse. We've seen polarized elections. Because of polarized elections, one overarching government won't work because people won't accept it when they lose. That's why counseling won't work, because nobody really believes in the system anymore. And devolution or other fake schemes, aka federalism, won't work. Letting go of the federal government is the only answer, aka full-blown secession. Critics of Marjorie Taylor Greene say there really isn't political division in America. Politicians like her make it seem like there is division in order to improve her fan base. Is political division in America a real issue? That's what I've been saying, and everybody knows. So the media and the other talking heads are lying. Political division is real. That's what he's saying. If we don't devolve and reduce the tensions between red and blue in America, do you see things becoming worse for political division in this country? Things will only get worse. There's no way to compromise. Just look at this next election. And this point right here was also what he said here. One unified government doesn't work because people get so upset whenever they lose an election. And you can see that in 2016 and 2020. There, he's mentioning it there, and he's repeating the same theme here. Just look at the next election. Look at the elections. There's no way to compromise. Dems don't have anyone to run, so they'll go with Joe, not Trump, who satisfies no one on his side but the people getting jobs in D.C., the swamp, and the reps. Are stuck with a Trump who has proved he doesn't have a clue about clearing the swamp. The founders knew their federalism arrangement was weak and undercut by the Yankee banksters from the start, but it was a good idea. Lincoln and the banksters and rail highwaymen ended it in 1861, and it has been dead ever since, buried deeper and deeper with every Dem that followed. So now it's a laughable idea. Only way for states now to have any sane things are run is to go their own way totally. And that's a repeat of this point here. Letting states go free of the federal government is the only answer. So those are the questions, and those are the answers from Kirkpatrick Sale. We're very pleased to be able to have this conversation and present the information to you. And I think the overarching thing he's saying is he doesn't believe a return to federalism is possible. There's too much of a leviathan at the federal level. People don't accept the results of elections or get too upset with elections. So how can you keep a unified system? And the federal government may not ever actually let its power go because of so many people in the swamp. Therefore, the only way out is to full-blown secede from America. That's what Kirkpatrick Sale said. And that completes our interview. Thank you very much. And we'll be back with more thought leaders, reporters, lawyers, and intellectuals talking about this very serious issue across America. Thank you for joining us.